Welcome to Let the Quran Speak, Dr. Shabir.
A pleasure to be on the show.
The question we have here is, can I watch pornography while fasting?
The question should have been, can I watch pornography at all? And the answer obviously will be no.
It's haram to watch pornography, right?
Yes. And then to do it while fasting, this just compounds the problem, because fasting is supposed to be a way of turning us away from evil things and towards good things, spiritual things. There's a hadith that says, "As-sawmu junnah," the fast is a shield. Mm-hmm. How is it a shield? Well, it kind of protects us from the bombardment from evil suggestions from the shayateen, the evil spirits that are out there. So the inclination towards evil, towards gratification of even the natural, normal desire of a man for his wife is to be not to be fulfilled during the daylight hours, because the fasting entails that one has to avoid food and drink and also sexual intercourse, which normally would have been halal and permissible. And Islam does not have this kind of taboo that says that something is wrong with this. In modern parlance, sometimes they speak of something like dirty or
impure.
And if somebody has a desire for his or her spouse, they describe that as feeling horny or something like this. That means horny, they're thinking like devilish, right? Because devil is depicted with the two horns. Yeah. So, but in Islam, there is no such concept that this is like devilish or something like this. This is natural, but it has to be done through the legal way, which is through marriage. But so even though this is totally legal and totally acceptable normally, when the person is fasting, one is going through the exercises of not fulfilling the physical needs of the flesh of the body, but one is turning towards spiritual things. So eating, drinking, sexual intercourse is not allowed during the fast. So you can well imagine that something that's normally prohibited, it will be even worse during the month of Ramadan.
So can you speak, Dr. Shabir, about why it's prohibited in general?
So the Quran talks about decency in society, and to maintain that decency, the Quran prescribes two things, basically. One is lowering one's gaze, and two is guarding one's own private parts, covering up well for both men and women. So the latter part, we can understand wearing decent clothing for both men and women, so that those parts of the body that will be sexually alluring would not be, just flaunted in public. So you're not becoming a temptation for others. And the other thing is lowering one's gaze. So instead of staring at something which obviously is sexually alluring, one turns away one's gaze. Of course, sometimes we're not able to avoid all of it. There are billboards selling perfumes and all of that, or you go into a pharmacy to legitimately buy your medication, and there are all these ads for perfumes and lotions and whatever, showing people that who are not properly clothed from the Islamic point of view.
It could even be an ad for cars, right?
Or
be anything.
Almost anything, yeah. So that's the modern advertising industry that we are living under. So as much as we can avoid in a reasonable way, we try to avoid that. So it'll be odd for a Muslim to be going out of his way to seek out, more and more of, people being depicted in nude form. So looking at the live person who is nude, this is prohibited because the Quran says lower your gaze. Looking at the picture or the image is one step down. This might be a reason why some might hesitate to use the technical word haram in Arabic for the same act, because to use that word, this is a very strict word, and if something is clearly stated in the Quran or in a saying attributed to our Prophet, peace be upon him, then we have the basis on which to call the thing haram. Mm-hmm. If it's one step down, then you might say this is by analogy, and we hesitate to use the same term. But nonetheless, nobody will say that this is acceptable. Everyone, whichever word they use, they will say this is totally unacceptable. A Muslim cannot be doing that at all, and shouldn't be doing that during the month of Ramadan, whether it is day or night. And especially so, they shouldn't be doing it during the fasting hours, because during the fasting hours, you're supposed to refrain from such gratification.
It would seem that it violates the spirit of Ramadan. But I wanted to ask you a question, Dr. Shabir. Does it actually break the fast?
So what I've seen the scholars say about this is that actually looking does not break the fast. So even if one were to look at a live person, just mere looking does not break the fast. Now, we're not asking whether it's acceptable or not. Totally it's unacceptable. But that act itself is not going to break the fast, because you can't let everything break the fast. Otherwise, humans being humans, it'll be hard for people to maintain a legitimate fast if you make everything break the fast, right? So a line has to be drawn somewhere. So where the line is drawn is to say that so long as you do not eat or you do not drink or you do not have sexual intercourse, the fast is not broken. But coming close to that, one would, the scholars would say that if looking at this stimulates you to the point where you start touching yourself and deriving this gratification, to the extent that in the case of a man or woman, they reach the state of orgasm, then this would actually break the fast.
Okay.
Yeah. Though
so would the masturbation itself break the fast, or is it the orgasm?
The orgasm.
Okay.
Yes. So, of course, one doesn't need to get close to that. One should cut one's, tracks.
Ramadan is a perfect time to control that habit.
Yeah, exactly. To stop in one's tracks. When you see that things are going that way, you just have to stop. You don't wait until it gets to that, and then you call the Muslim scholar and say, well, please tell me, is my fast broken now? Muslims have to put up their own controls. And of course, there are many different ways of doing that, but from the directions that we get from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, we know that fasting is not only the avoidance of food and drink, which, these are the technical stipulations that break the fast, but also to avoid every evil. So our ears should be fasting so that we don't listen to something which is impermissible or inappropriate. Our tongue should be fasting so we do not backbite other people, we don't speak ill of people, we don't say a foul word. We don't even quarrel with people while we are fasting. I mean, all of these are different gradations of things, right? Obviously, using foul words, this is bad. But even quarreling with people, even though normally you might have a legitimate quarrel, but while you're fasting, you're so resigned to God that you're not even going to take on a legitimate quarrel. If you want to quarrel with somebody, just leave it for later. You might have to return a product, for example, to a supplier because the product is defective, and they're not admitting that the product is defective, and they're giving you a hard time. You might feel like screaming. Don't scream while you're fasting, okay? Leave it for later if that's what is needed, maybe even as an act of yours to get them to their senses and let them realize that they're supposed to exchange the product. So if you're not allowed during the fasting time, or it's not appropriate while fasting to even have a legitimate quarrel, then you can well imagine, even worse than that. So our tongues have to be fasting, our hands have to be fasting. We can't be touching something that would not be pleasing to God. Our feet should be fasting. Our feet should not carry us into a bad place, and so on. So a Muslim has to be thinking of holistically fasting, mind, body, spirit.
Thank you. We'll leave it at that, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome. You can change someone's life this Ramadan. Donate as much or as little as you can and be part of our project to share the message of Islam to people across the globe. Visit QuranSpeaks.com and donate. Your contribution is zakat eligible and tax deductible. May God keep you safe and healthy. May God bless you and your loved ones with the very best always.